Today on the Topping Show, Dylan Mulvaney is ghosted at his Penn State paid speaking event with only a handful of people actually showing up to the event. Bill Burr roasts Jimmy Kimmel for making Trump a martyr. Vivek on January 6th goes viral. McDonald's wants to open up nearly 9,000 additional stores by 2027. XPO in line to acquire about 28 yellow trucking properties. McDonald's first CosMc spinoff restaurant opened last week. And Starbucks has lost about $12 billion in stock valuation since the union had sided with Palestine in the Israel-Palestine-Hamas conflict that is in the news. All of that much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, so if you click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have McDonald's wanting to open up nearly 9,000 additional restaurants by 2027. Now, this comes to us thanks to CNBC, specifically the reporter by the name of Lamaya Lucas. And in addition to wanting to open up, astonishingly enough, an additional 9,000 stores, they also want to increase their loyalty membership program by 100 million additional members. Now, they also say that McDonald's expects to hike its capital spending through 2027 as it accelerates its new restaurant openings as part of its strategy to grow more on a global scale and ramp up their sales. Specifically, it looks like they want to open up more than 8,800 locations, add 100,000 members to its loyalty program. The targets are part of the fast food giant's long-term plans to grow sales across its already sprawling restaurant footprint, which, going down more into the substance, it looks like McDonald's big development plan will mean higher capital spending. For 2024, the company anticipates $2.5 billion in capital expenditures, up from its expectation of $2.2 billion to $2.4 billion in 2023. And for every year from 2025 to 2027, McDonald's expects to increase its capital expenditures by $300 million to $500 million sequentially. By 2027, McDonald's wants to have a global footprint of 50,000 locations. The chain has 41,198 restaurants currently worldwide as of September 30th. Now, by comparison, Starbucks in November said it aims to reach 55,000 cafes worldwide by 2030, up from its current count of 38,000 Starbucks locations, which is kind of hilarious because anecdotally speaking, everyone makes all the jokes about having so many Starbucks out there. There used to be some joke, I forget the actual punchline, but something to the effect of they thought there was more Starbucks than grains of sand in the desert, or something to that effect. And when in fact it looks like McDonald's actually has much more locations than Starbucks. Now, in terms of the breakdown of where they want to open up these locations, they know that to reach its development goal, McDonald's plans to open 900 U.S. locations and 1,900 restaurants in the international operating markets segmentally, and roughly 7,000 units in its international development licensed marketing divisions. The company's IOM business includes markets like France, Canada, and Australia, and accounts for nearly 50% of the company's revenue. McDonald's IDL segment includes China, which will account for more than half of the division's new locations. In late November, McDonald's announced it had bought back a minority stake in its China business, which currently has a footprint of more than 5,500 locations. When asked for comment, McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczinski says, quote, "There's no reason why China can't be 20,000 to 25,000 stores or restaurants. It could be the largest market around the world for us," unquote. Which, given the population density in the country, yeah, it sounds about right. I wouldn't be surprised if they surpass that in the near future. Although, given the growth rates, I'm surprised they're not putting more of a focus on India. I'm not sure about their dietary preferences, but that is another one of the largest markets with over 1 billion prospective clients. So that very well might be part of their long-term growth plan as well. Now, they also know that McDonald's wants to reach 250 million active members for its loyalty program by 2027. At its last investor day in 2020, the company was still testing the loyalty program in the U.S., but since then it has grown to be a juggernaut, boosting mobile sales and encouraging customers to return more frequently. Which, in terms of harvesting data and building out a customer customer preference list and customer portfolio, it has been massively successful. I remember a couple years ago, there was a huge marketing campaign that they had where they literally give you a free little serving of fries if you just sign up for the McDonald's app. As every company wants to be an IT company and data is king. At one point, data is actually worth more than oil and gold, as crazy as that sounds. So it makes sense for them to want to continue to encourage customers to do that. It also gives you greater insight into what your customers are buying. And the more data you have, the more accurate you can predict, well, a myriad of things, including your recurring revenue, but also preferences of purchases. It'll help you even better know, well, what kind of things do you need to order for the stores? What kind of items do you need to buy in more bulk? Where do you need to go negotiate more? Because you're going to need a vast amount of quantity of A, Y, Z, whatever we want to call them, ingredients. So there's a myriad of benefits. And when additionally talking about technology, they also said, quote, "We're excited to see how McDonald's will use our," this is actually, McDonald's also announced their partnership with Alphabet's Google Cloud, using its artificial intelligence across its restaurants to improve operations. Now, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai says, quote, "We're excited to see how McDonald's will use our generative AI cloud and our edge computing tools to improve their iconic dining experience for their employees and their consumers all over the world," unquote. So it'll be interesting to see we do live in an age of data is king, how much will affect their sales, how much will be able to possibly increase it. And then, do you think this might saturate the market? You've seen this with a lot of retail locations, both restaurant as well as stores, where they grow so much, but they saturate sales because the stores are close together. Perhaps the most infamous example being GameStop, where you have GameStop like within 2 miles of another GameStop. It was ridiculous how many locations they had at their peak, and it became counterproductive because they were just cannibalizing sales, and it really wasn't helping the company grow too much. It was actually hurting the company, making each individual store less profitable. Now, granted, that being said, it'll be interesting to see if McDonald's has that same issue, but as I always say, time shall tell. Other interesting business news, you have XPO in line to acquire about 28 yellow trucking properties. Now, Yellow Trucking was one of the largest logistics companies in the United States, and earlier this year, it actually went bankrupt. Now, this comes to us thanks to a fun new website that makes sense. I was just going to say A+ for marketing for this website. It's called Transport Topics. A+, you know exactly what they're going to talk about. Now, specifically, this article is thanks to Kieran Greenlaw, and they note that XPO is in line for 28 yellow properties for $870 million. It looks like 128 of Yellow's 169 owned properties sold to 21 buyers for $1.9 billion as the auction continues. Again, this is the subsequent bankruptcy auction where they're liquidating all the remaining assets. Now, they noted that the truck carrier XPO Inc. has agreed to pay $870 million for 26 owned terminals and 2 leased properties that were previously operated by Yellow Corp, emerging as the largest bidder in the managed sale of the bankrupt LTC carrier's assets, the court documents have shown. Now, they also know that, however, one of Yellow's other top suitors, Old Dominion Freight Lines, did not land any properties in the initial sale. They continue to say that XPO offer was among the largest from the auction's initial results, which began November 28th, which saw 128 out of Yellow's 169 owned properties sold to 21 different buyers. Documents filed in December 4th had shown. Now it looks like the 28 locations, most of them, well, it looks like there's actually all over the U.S. 28 locations, XPO. Let's see here. So it'll be interesting to see how much this increases that logistics company's capabilities as they expand their footprint. And hopefully everyone who's laid off, or more accurately, everyone who used to work at Yellow Trucking, they're able to find a gainful career, gainful employment, and one of these other trucking competitors, so that there's not too many jobs lost overall. Other interesting business news at McDonald's. First CosMc spinoff restaurant opened last week. Now, this is thanks to Amelia Lucas at CNBC, and this is McDonald's new concept restaurant, basically McDonald's Starbucks. So it's called CosMc, and McDonald's plans to open 10 of them to test whether the concept could work across the U.S. and other markets. And they're positioning CosMc as a fast, convenient way to grab a pick-me-up snack or coffee, which they just described McDonald's. I mean, you can get coffee at McDonald's. I know branding and marketing is vital for any product, from food to shoes to vehicles. But if you need coffee in a pinch and you need the lowest price point, I mean, I think most people know, just go to McDonald's. Granted, it might burn your tongue off, but nevertheless, they have coffee. Now, I guess the sign looks cute. I mean, kind of looks like a bastardized McDonald's logo where they have like a little yellow arch. It's almost as if they cut the M in half. Now, it looks like they opened the first location in Bolingbrook, Illinois, which is a little disappointing. They probably should have done it in Oak Brook or Chicago. Now, I don't say that because it's a safe place to do business and live. Quite the antithesis, it's not. But McDonald's was founded in Oak Brook, Illinois, and they're now, I don't know why, but they're headquartered in Chicago. So usually when you're trying out new location, or when you're trying out new concepts, it's usually closest to the main office, a little more oversight, a little easier to kind of see, manage, tweak it, but nevertheless. Now, it looks like of the 10 that they want to open, including 9 restaurants in Texas by the end of 2024 in a test, McDonald's will then spend a year analyzing the data to determine whether it will expand the small format chain. The name for the new brand comes from CosMc, a McDonaldland mascot that appeared in advertisements in the 1980s and early 1990s. CosMc is an alien from outer space who craves McDonald's food. The company has leaned more into marketing its mascots after seeing the success with the Grimace birthday meal earlier this year. But wait a minute. They're naming this coffee shop, I guess they're snacks, after a mascot that craves McDonald's food. But if you want McDonald's food, you go to McDonald's. So they're, again, they could just call it the McCafe. I know they're leaning into nostalgia, and don't get me wrong, nostalgia does sell. There's a reason why not all, but many of these fast food companies are reverting back to their older logos. Can't help but think it's probably a mixture of nostalgia, also remembering back when their food was higher quality, the prices were lower thanks to the government. Well, government right now has caused ridiculous 40-year hyperinflation thanks to them at the ineptitudes of the government. But yeah, it looks like the menu will include old favorites such as Egg McMuffins, which, again, doesn't McDonald's have that? Okay. They'll have M&M McFlurries and new items such as churro fraps and pretzel bites. McDonald's is positioning CosMc as a fast, convenient way to grab a pick-me-up or snack. But, again, that's what I already think of McDonald's as. I think McDonald's is fast and convenient. Granted, I don't really eat there, personally, but I thought that was already McDonald's main advertising mechanism. That's what they were known for. Now, of course, this almost feels like a bad pitch on Shark Tank. And don't get me wrong, this might be wildly successful. Who knows? I'm pessimistic to say the least. But this is a quote from McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczynski. He said, quote, "This is a $100 billion category growing faster than the rest of the informal eating out segment with superior margins," unquote. Which is what every bad entrepreneur says when they go on Shark Tank. That's the biggest mistake they always make. They go, oh yeah, if we could just get 1% of 1% of 1% of this multi-billion-dollar category, then we could be set for life. Not only is it the wrong mindset, but it's just so ridiculous. And I suppose maybe there's a carve-out. Maybe there's a place in the market for a discounted Starbucks. This better be cheaper than Starbucks, I'll say that much, if they really want to gain any market share. And I suspect it will be, but then I suppose, are they now starting to compete with Dunkin' Donuts or Tom Hortons, actually, truth be told, I think they're slowly expanding in the United States. Still not even a shadow of Starbucks in terms of number of locations and market segment and market share. But can't help but think, what's a big driving reason to go to here? And they're telling you it's more profitable, so either the portions are going to be smaller or the prices are going to be more. I mean, as a consumer, if you're someone who enjoys coffee on the go or a quick snack, where would you go? I mean, gas stations in the United States have been stepping up their game exponentially, partially because they get a lot of their profit from the actual concessions and drinks inside the facilities. They make a little bit on the gasoline, that adds up in the aggregate, but the reason you see such high quality, clean bathrooms and clean facilities because they want to get you inside the store. So that's why you're seeing a lot of exponentially growth with companies like Buc-ee's, Racetrack, Quick Trip. Those places are growing exponentially. They're doing quite well. Now I think this might be competing with them as well, because again, they all have coffee, they all have quick snacks. Let me know in the comments, do you think this will be wildly successful for McDonald's? Don't get me wrong, it very well could be. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have Dylan Mulvaney ghosted at Penn State speaking event as the picture goes viral. Now, Dylan Mulvaney is perhaps the most famous trans activist. It was a fascinating phenomenon in which you had a biological man dress up as or identify as a woman and do videos of celebrating, quote unquote, every XYZ, or more accurately 1, 2, 3 days of womanhood. With the most famous one, I would say, would be Dylan prancing through the woods, or the forest, in high heels and prancing about, which I did ask female members of my family. Women don't do that. I was, truth be told, a little bit shocked. I mean, not really, but this person got millions of dollars from advertisers. Most famously, got, I believe, $1 million contract from Maybelline, Tampax, the tampon company. They gave Dylan Mulvaney a couple $100,000, I believe. Anheuser-Busch InBev, or Bud Light, gave Dylan Mulvaney $185,000 to be a brand ambassador. Subsequently killed the brand by 30% of their sales, subsequently week over week. And sales by volume, well, that's dollar amount. Sales by volume, about 26% week over week. So this person became very famous and, fiscally speaking, very financially successful. And this person decided, well, I'm going to do speaking events and charge about $40,000 per speaking engagement. Which, geez Louise, I can't imagine someone's words. I can't imagine people getting paid so much for speaking. I understand some people certainly have some extraordinary, brilliant ideas, and I can understand the value of a public appearance, but I mean, a glorified activist getting $40,000 per engagement? Let's just say I was skeptical to think this would succeed. Now, given the culture of college campuses, and I actually thought this would be wildly successful for Dylan. Because again, when you go to most college campuses, I mean, there is no diversity in terms of the teachers. Most of them are very much politically speaking left. I remember Ben Shapiro's book, I believe is Brainwashed, where he talks about how there's less than 1% of the teachers at college campuses are conservative. There's really not much for diversity of thought, which should be a concerning thing for many Americans. I thought this would be knocking it out of the park. I thought Dylan was making money left and right, just going to every college campus, raking it in. Now, this tweet actually shows the opposite. This comes from the Young Americans Foundations, and they said, quote, and this is a tweet, "Large number of empty seats at Dylan Mulvaney's speech at Penn State," unquote. And it shows a picture in which you have a big conference room, and it's pretty much all empty. There might be 9 or 10 people sitting at the very front, but for someone who was going viral, as the youth might say, I mean, millions of followers on the TikTok, millions of followers. And I thought this was going to be, I thought it'd be packed to the roof, so to say. And that picture alone got 2.2 million views and 1.7 thousand likes. And I almost wonder what the comments will be. Probably mostly agreeing with Yaf. Will it mostly be against Dylan Mulvaney? Let's dive in and find out. Based Latinos says, quote, "Oh, well, I'm sure the venue identifies as sold out," unquote. That got 1.7 thousand likes. ZNO says, quote, "He can imagine his audience like he imagines his gender," unquote. That got 1.5 thousand likes. And Or says, quote, "Didn't you hear? Most of the audience identifies as transparent, LOL," unquote. That got 280 likes. American Populist says, quote, "And yet, oddly, still too many," unquote. 310 likes. Jake 13 says, quote, "He can pretend it's a huge crowd, just like he pretends he's a girl," unquote. 726 likes. NIM6212 says, quote, "The 15 minutes are over," unquote, getting 206 likes. Jonas Goldsmith says, quote, "Surprisingly, the prancing troonery of this modern minstrel show doesn't have an enormous offline following. Very mysterious," unquote, getting 256 likes. Charles Vigan says, quote, The people in the audience are as imaginary as the genders they come up with, unquote. Abigail David Shinso says, quote, I'm sure they identified as not interested, unquote, getting 44 likes. Daniel B. Levin said, quote, everyone heard they were only serving Bud Light, unquote. Got 96 likes. Trixie Quee says, quote, even the kids know he's a con artist, unquote, getting 45 likes. Based Normie Mama says, quote, see, I feel like he did all this for fame. He's been doing everything and anything to try to get famous, and this just happened to be what worked at the time. So by taking that away from him, it sends a clear messages, unquote, getting 73 likes. I mean, people show up or not. This person still got paid like 40 grand. Which, now that you think about it, 40 grand if only 9 people showed up. That's a big chunk of change per person. David B. Basquill says, quote, like the person, the theater is empty, unquote, getting 12 likes. It looks like overwhelmingly supportive of Yaf and against Dylan. It'll be interesting to see, is there finally a cultural shift in the United States to move away from these types of things? For a while, pretty much every major brand, I mean, we're talking about Maybelline, Tampax, the largest, most successful businesses on the planet were giving Dylan Mulvaney hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, because it presumably is increasing their sales. And in some cases, as crazy as it sounds, it was. That's why some of them were doing it. Now, Bud Light, of course, that was perhaps the tipping point in which, again, Q2, just one quarter, they lost $400 million in sales after the Dylan Mulvaney incident, where Dylan Mulvaney had a picture of Dylan's face on the can and took 2 or 3 pictures with the can. I think that was the tipping point where the businesses started to decrease their sponsorship of this individual, or whatever you want to call it, brand ambassadorship, whatever. But it's an instance where a lot of people are still questioning this person's authenticity because, again, it's a debate even in the trans community, because Dylan presumably had never got the, I don't know, cover your ears if you have children listening, the surgery that some people believe is necessary to become part of that community by chopping parts off. So there's a lot of people questioning this person's authenticity on that regard. A lot of people are thinking it's opportunistic. So there's a lot of questions. It's not like every community, or it wasn't a 100% consensus. It's a very controversial individual, even prior to the Bud Light fiasco or business blunder of the century. So it'd be interesting to see, is there a cultural shift away from this? And do you think, one of the comments did mention how this person is extremely famous online, and there are certain things that the algorithm will intentionally push for a myriad of reasons. I believe a lot of people would suspect they have ulterior motives, especially if it's TikTok, which is owned by China. So it'll be interesting to see, is there just a disconnect where, something will be really famous, really big online, but when you go in the real world, there's that big disconnect and there's not that much support. But again, maybe it's also a small sample size. This is one speech. Who knows? But I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Bill Burr roasting Jimmy Kimmel for making Trump a martyr. Now, Jimmy Kimmel does have many accolades, including being perhaps one of the most insufferable talk show hosts since the dawn of time. He's one of those morally, mentally vacuous people who says, if you don't agree with me, you want people to die. Most famously, Jimmy Kimmel is very much anti-gun, even though I'm sure he has his own private security force. But he doesn't believe you should be able to have a gun, and if you disagree with him, you want children to die. He's one of those mentally, morally vacuous people who disagree in that regard. Now, this is trending on the Twitter, a lot of people posting it, and this individual, looks like Zoho Calhoun posted it. This is one of the clips I found. And he said, quote, Bill Burr shares his thoughts on the 2024 election last night on Jimmy Kimmel. And of course, on Jimmy Kimmel's main YouTube channel, they've got over 1.2 or 2 million views. Let me pull it up really quick. Bill Burr, Jimmy Kimmel. It's one of those things where I don't think I've seen. I'm trying to think of the last time I actually tuned. How many years has it been since actually? I don't think I've. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever voluntarily watched Jimmy Kimmel. He's always seemed insufferable to me. kind of like the male version of a Karen. But nevertheless, it's only about a minute 30 long for this highlight, so I'll go ahead and play without further ado.
I know what I'm going to tell my kids when they get to a certain age. I really am. Like, I have it down.
You have it
about
planned
religion and people.
Really?
Narcissists, sociopaths, all of this type of stuff. Like, you want to see a great case thing on, like, narcissism. Liberals are so stupid the way that they handle Trump.
What do you mean?
You should shut up. He's a narcissist. Neutral energy.
Yeah. You think he'd go away? If
you know what I think he was? I think he was a one-hit wonder. Right? He wrote The Twist. And then that was it. He was on the casino circuit, and then you idiot liberals wrote him Twist again when you indicted him. And now he's a martyr.
And now
he's coming back, Jimmy.
The peppermint twist is back.
Coming back. It's going to be great for comedy. He's coming back. I can't believe, like, these are honestly going to be our two choices, because I really try to, with each thing, to try to be, like, figure out who I'm going to put. I mean, there's got to be, I want somebody in their 40s, somebody that's going to have to live with their decisions. I don't want, like, you know, with any luck, they'll both die of natural causes before the election. And maybe you could get somebody that still has something to live for.
Wow. You know? This year, you're not going to get a visit from Santa, but you are going to get a visit from the Secret Service.
Why? I said die peacefully.
Oh, you did? I didn't hear peacefully.
I did.
Oh,
no, and then you threw that in.
I must have thrown that in, yeah. Bill Burr is
Wait
here.
a minute.
He means no harm.
Good old Kimmel is insufferable as usual. And Bill Burr does bring a couple good points, because, again, if you look at Trump's approval rating, if you look at how's he doing for the Republican nominee, you look at all those polls, the poll aggregators, every time he got indicted, he went up in the polls. His favorability went up every single time. I mean, I can't help but wonder, if they didn't do any of that, do you think his ratings would be about the same? I mean, he's gone up exponentially. If you look at project538.com, which is a website that's a poll aggregator. If you look at that site, I mean, Trump started off at, what was it? 45%. No, wait. He started off about 45%. So for the presidential Republican nominee, he's about 45%. And throughout the past year, now he's up to like about 60%. And there's spikes. And every time when he got indicted, it went up. So I think there is a little bit of truth in that. Now, we go to the YouTube. I won't play the whole insufferable interview because it's about 15 minutes. If you look at the comments section, someone, let's see here. Looks like most of them are still overwhelmingly supporting a bill, because, again, he's saying the things you're not supposed to say out loud in some cases. Junk, and again, it's just going to the YouTube page. That Canadian chick says, quote, the older I get, the more I can relate to that guy, unquote, getting 398 likes. Boots796 says, quote, Bill calling Jimmy an idiot liberal to his face made my day, unquote, getting 154 likes. Bobby Horn 2291 says, quote, I love that Bill's dismantling Kimmel every once in a while, making fun of his slow pitch, underhand softball celebrity home run, calling out Kimmel's suit etiquette by not unbuttoning his jacket when he sits down. What a legend, unquote. Getting 192 likes. Let's see here. And again, Trump got, especially with the 2016 election, Trump got a lot of free press from pretty much every news network, which ironically allowed them, their ratings just crashed to nothing when Trump was out of the office. Ironic twist of fate, they kind of needed him, but they got rid of him. But nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see if more and more comics start to point this out. But again, looking down here, overwhelming support for Bill Burr, and most of the comments roasting Jimmy Kimmel. Now going over to the political part podcast, you have Vivek's January 6th video going viral. Now, this is from Vivek's personal Twitter account, or 17 people call it X. Within a day, it got 3.7 million views. Now, Vivek, let's see here. I wonder if he says something different than a text.
Let's start with January 6th.
Sure.
There is no evidence that it is in.
I'll say I'll say both just to be safe. So he says, quote, "If you had told me nearly 3 years ago when I was a CEO that January 6th was an inside job, I would have said that's crazy. It's not. There are now clear evidence that there was at the very least entrapment of peaceful protesters similar to the fake Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot and countless other cases. The FBI won't admit how many undercover officers were in the field on January 6th. Capitol Police, on one hand, fired rubber bullets and explosives into a peaceful crowd who they then willingly later allowed to enter the Capitol. This doesn't add up, and the actual evidence turns the prior narrative upside down. If the deep state is willing to manufacture an insurrection to take down its political opponents, they can do anything. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Too bad for CNN. We'll take the truth on January 6th mainstream."
Let's start with January 6th.
Sure.
There is no evidence that it is an inside job. It was a fringe conspiracy theory that the Trump-appointed FBI director, Christopher Wray, has said explicitly over and over is just not true.
So I appreciate the opportunity to address it. I was an anti-woke crusader leaving the business world, and if you had asked me 3 years ago, is there some chance January 6th is an inside job, I would have said that was crazy talk. I would say, looking at the facts of the video footage that have come out, Dana, it is shocking that you still haven't gotten a clear answer of how many federal agents were in the field that day. Look at now the video footage of actually throwing explosives and rubber bullets into what was a peaceful crowd, then releasing to the public what came in response to that. But now look at the video footage that was released, and I'm glad we're talking about it because viewers deserve to look at that footage. Capitol Police literally letting people in who were then now prosecuted, some of whom have gone on to commit suicide because of what the government's doing. That is a case of entrapment. And I think the government has not been transparent about this, which is why I then brought up another case where the government, now 20 years later, with declassified documents, told us that they lied to us at the time. And so I do think we have a government that's consistently lied to its people.
But an inside job suggests that everybody who attacked the Capitol was part of that.
I didn't say that, but I was saying that there's entrapment going on. There's entrapment going on, and this looks like a case of entrapment. And if you look at even over the last...
What do you mean by entrapment?
Entrapment means that the police goaded people to do something that they otherwise wouldn't have done, and then they arrest them for actually doing it.
And you don't think it was actually the former president who was
trying to get people? I think that was the media narrative. Now look at actually a hard case.
We heard him with our own ears.
I'm going to ask you about a case and see what you think about this, right? You guys said this for a long time about the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. Suddenly gone silent after it comes out at trial that absolutely that was a case of entrapment, which is why 2 of those people were acquitted. So I'm saying this as somebody who, on the other side of this, as a biotech CEO, somebody who was even anti-woke, but if I was looking at this, I would have said a lot of this is crazy talk. But if you actually get into the details, I think it is startling how much the government has systematically lied. And I think it's both parties over the course of the last 25 years.
But on
the left used to be better at pointing this out and being skeptical of the government, but now it's the right.
Which is the most aggressive, offensive attack on the U.S. Capitol and on democracy itself that we have seen in our lifetime and in many, many lifetimes. To say without evidence that it was an inside job.
I'm not saying it without evidence. I think that what we're seeing now is the video footage that's come out. I was in a different place before a lot of that evidence came out. But you have to respond to the evidence. What is your response, or what is anybody else in CNN's response to the video footage that was released of Capitol Police literally just peacefully allowing people into the Capitol?
What we know
or
is
shooting
that
into peaceful
850 people have been convicted of crimes.
But the reality is many of them were convicted before that information was released.
And do you think that former President Trump has anything to do with this?
No, because you're bringing up a really good point, and your audience and everybody deserves to know the truth about this. Normally, there's a rule in constitutional law. It's called the Brady Rule. You have to turn over exculpatory evidence to the other side. In this case, it wasn't turned over because the DOJ said Congress was sitting on.
Again, they had 3.7 million views in a single day and 38,000 likes, making it one of his most viral moments on the Twitter. Or 17 people call it X. Let's go see what the responses say. Baked Turbo Fit Lash says, quote, "Could anyone need more of a clear sign?" Unquote. And there's a picture, well, it's a screenshot of the video, aforementioned video. And there's a little round light above Vivek's head indicating, I guess their metaphor is a halo. That got 1.3 thousand likes. Eddie says, quote, "January 6th with an inside job," unquote. And he has a meme in which Vivek is holding up from the debate, this little legal pad, and the text is changed to say January 6th equals inside job. It got 1.2 thousand likes. And again, brilliant marketing by Vivek. He knew that was going to be taken and just chopped up into 100 different memes. And again, going viral is half the battle, some might say, in terms of popularity, and increasing your poll numbers. Aether Wolf says, quote, journalism is dead. Listening to this woman talk, she only wants to push a narrative. No curiosity or interest in exploring anything else. Thank you for standing up to this every day. How tiring. Unquote. Got 2.3 thousand likes. Helio Wave says, quote, it's crazy to see the media claim narratives even after it falls apart. You can feel the desperation, unquote, getting 1.9 thousand likes. Sri Harsha says, quote, Vivek, you should have asked her, quote, did you watch the January 6th tapes that were released recently, unquote. Got 1.6 thousand likes. Roger Stone says, quote, CNN is not a news outlet. It is a propaganda front run by jackals. No one who works there should be believed. They are beneath contempt. Unquote. Got 1.1 thousand likes. Let's see here. We have it all, says, quote, let's not forget the committee destroyed evidence as well, unquote. Got 295 likes. Telismia says, quote, imagine journalists not doing investigation any longer and just offering opinion commentary. What a time to be alive, unquote. Got 415 likes. The White Rabbit says, quote, bringing back justice for January 6ers, unquote, getting 148 likes. Vince Langman says, quote, January 6th was the largest FBI false flag operation in history. Thank you for not being afraid to speak the truth on CNN, unquote. Gentleman got 387 likes. Let's see here. Luke Zalski says, quote, the fact that Trump hasn't made fun of Vivek's name or given him a nickname tells you everything you need to know about him. What is up? Vivek isn't a threat to Trump. He's not a candidate for president. He's a contestant on the apprentice cabinet position. There's only one voter. Unquote. Got 402 likes and one of the first contrarian statements going against Vivek. Dwayne Robertson says, quote, great points and you won the debate easily, unquote. Got 137 likes. News Nomad says, quote, it takes humility to change one's position when confronted with evidence. Thank you, unquote. Got 572 likes. Subdertude says, quote, Dana is no match and Vivek is correct, unquote. Got 1,000 likes. Max says, quote, the fact that a journalist is trying to argue with him about, quote, no evidence is literally all you need to hear about this conversation to know who's lying, unquote. Got 200 likes. Damian Ranger says, quote, Vivek is now the leading candidate for 2028. I'd vote for him, unquote. Got 430 likes. Let's see here. Scrolling down more and more. Andrew McCullen says, quote, nice to see someone who actually studies the facts is actually running for president, unquote, getting 54 likes. Someone by the name of William Blantz says, quote, the Brady violations are the worst part for me, unquote, getting 34 likes. And as I scroll more and more, Ecam Coldest says, quote, Vivek having a whole ass halo over his head, unquote, getting 97 likes. So it's like overwhelming positive responses to him. Again, it'll be interesting to see. He's going viral. He's especially proficient at social media, getting a lot of views, getting a lot of likes, mostly positive comments. The real question is, when is that going to translate to him increasing his poll numbers? Because he peaked about 6 to 8 weeks ago. He's about 7%. He's now hovering around 5%. It'll be interesting to see what moves does he have to make on the political chessboard in order to get back on track to actually increasing those numbers. Because right now he's still below Nikki Haley, and DeSantis, of course, just keeps presumably dropping. In theory, someday he'll hire someone that has a modicum of intelligence to run his campaign. But it'll be interesting to see. Let me know, do you think this will actually increase his numbers in the poll for Vivek, or do you think he's kind of evened out? Be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Starbucks losing about $12 billion in market value thanks to the controversy around their union and the boycotts over the Palestine, Israel, Hamas conflict. It's not a subject in which is my core competency in terms of Middle East relations, So I apologize if I'm butchering the specifics or the names. I'm much more on the business end of the formula, so I could give you more of that. That's where most of my knowledge is when it comes to the country of Israel, especially the technological innovations that they have there. Now, in terms of Starbucks, they have many issues at Starbucks, of course. Now, one of the issues is their unions. Not only are they exponentially increasing cost and doing less work, but the unions actually praised Palestine and Hamas. And in terms of social media, in terms of PR, that is, not so good. And now you have a bunch of people boycotting Starbucks, and it's been hurting their stock pretty bad. Now, this is thanks to the New York Post. They also noted that, quote, Starbucks has seen nearly $12 billion erased from its market value since the past month as sales have reportedly slowed amid tighter consumer wallets and growing labor strife, with some even speculating that the chain had been hit by the boycotts over the Israel-Gaza war. Let's see here. Continue to go down. They know that despite delivering a better than expected sales growth of 8% during its fiscal fourth quarter, the coffee house share price has decelerated on a week-over-week basis following trends in the snack and coffee industry. And geez Louise, their stock is a hurting. And I'm just going to say, granted, the stock fluctuates every second by the nature of the stock market. As the time of this recording, it's at $96.42 per share. So it's year to date, it's down around 3%. Past month, 7%. 5 days, closer to 10. So it's definitely has some short-term struggles, to say the least. Now, they continue to say, let's see here. When the coffeehouse chain share price continued to decline, putting in its annual Red Cup Day, the promotional event saw baristas handing out free red-colored reusable holiday-themed cups to consumers as their coffee purchases on November 16th through festivities were overshadowed by a walkout. Hundreds of workers, represented by the Workers United Union, walked off the job on a notorious busy day, demanding improved staffing and schedules, while non-unionized staffers endured one of the most infamously hard and understaffed days, as drink orders piled up and employees end up receiving a bunch of abuse from frustrated customers. Which, I was going to say, one of the biggest issues in the United States is the unprecedented levels of entitlement. Starbucks already pays well above the competitors and gives way better health benefits than most of the competitors as well. And now the unions want to put the screws to them, so to say. Now, that'll just make the situation worse and worse, of course. And the fact that the union is praising terrorism is not great either, obviously. It also makes Starbucks look bad because the union is using their logo as well as their intellectual property. Now, it looks like the protests were just in the latest Starbucks deep-rooted disagreements with the union. Last month, the two entities filed wearing lawsuits over the union's social media post declaring solidarity with Palestine, unquote, in the wake of the Hamas deadly attacks. After Workers United published the controversial statement in a since-deleted post on X last month, where it boasted nearly 100,000 followers, Starbucks swiftly moved to distance itself from the organization. Starbucks said, quote, "We unequivocally condemn acts of terrorism, hate, and violence and disagree with the statements and views expressed by Workers United and its members. Workers United's words and actions belong to them and them alone," unquote. Which, of course, they could say that, but they have a similar logo. They work for you, so you're foolishly continuing to work with them. And it's alienating a lot of prospective and, well, I was going to say, old clients. Now, let's see here. The response has interpreted as a display of support for Israel over Palestine, prompting for calls for boycott. Despite Starbucks' efforts to quell boycott calls, the hashtag boycott Starbucks is still trending on social media. According to TikTok's Creative Center, the database that details user insights, the hashtag has been used in some 16,000 times the past 30 days, generating combined 167 million views, which is quite a bit. And scrolling through the article, and again, the Israel-Palestine conflict is a tale as old as time, and most of these companies are trying not to make any statements, and Starbucks has gotten to the situation where they're in between a rock and a hard place. I don't see them turning this around anytime soon. Let's see here. And again, any additional background you have on this situation, I appreciate. This is very much one of the most newest topics I've covered in the past near year since I started the show. And interestingly enough, they do have a fun little comments section, so we'll go down there. Someone by the name of Gray says, quote, if it is true that Starbucks lost money due to standing up to fringe union employees who hijacked the Starbucks name to make political statements, then I applaud Starbucks for standing up for civil rights of all of their customers. I feel sorry for their, I hope temporary, loss and hope they recover soon. Some things in life are worth more than money, unquote. They got 6 likes. Someone by the name of Stove Boat says, quote, they should have been more concerned about the grande peppermint mocha I got today being $7.70. Like I'm going to make that mistake again, unquote. Got 7 likes. And yet there's another reason, if I do enjoy coffee, I usually make myself at home for about, 18 cents at most? I mean, the big value add of Starbucks is the mobile office. They have robust Wi-Fi. If you don't care about security, you can use that. Granted, I use that in my own hotspot. But nevertheless, they have nice desks. It's usually quiet. And I usually buy just the cheapest, their cheap drip coffee. And it's pretty good. But again, not a necessity. Someone by the name of Modern Girl 61 says, quote, go woke, I hope you go broke. They also failed to mention that they ditched their credit card that allowed users to earn free drinks, unquote. I got 17 likes. Someone by the name of Rad says, quote, overpriced, overrated, unquote. Got 18 likes, and is perhaps the most popular comment thus far. Jen F says, quote, the number who would boycott in favor of Hamas wouldn't make a dent in Starbucks profits, unquote. They got 4 likes. Stella Bright says, quote, I rarely go to overpriced Starbucks, but knowing their union supports Hamas is enough to keep me out of there forever and for good. The union claiming management is punishing them for simply being union members is misdirection and false narrative. By the way, Pete's has much better coffee, unquote. Got 8 likes. And most other comments getting 0 to 3 likes, mostly of the same effect, the same sentiment. But again, having the union exponentially increase the cost of labor and on average decrease the quality, since there's not much incentive because just based on the nature of how it's set up. Having them hijack your brand and just drag it through the mud to cause a huge boycott, losing again about $12 billion in market valuation. That's got to be, bar none, the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Don't forget to take time to subscribe. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December. Also, leaving a comment is a great way to give me some feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better, improve the quality. Also, lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.